Welcome back to the Social Kick Podcast. I'm Brian Lundquist, joined by a full crew today. Luke Paddington, Justin Wynn, Dr. John Mullen, and a special guest today, Katie Hoff. Welcome, Katie.
Hi, everyone. Cheers.
Cheers to you. Katie, what's in your glass tonight?
Say it again.
What's in your glass?
Oh, I have this bourbon that is locally from Michigan, which is where my husband has grown up. So I got in the door, just did a 9-hour drive, and my mother-in-law had it waiting for me. So very much that.
Are you? I didn't notice. Are you a neat or on the rocks?
It was on the rocks, and then it melted, so now it's neat.
I don't think that counts.
It doesn't.
I think John's joining you. John, what's in your glass?
I'm back on the scotch. Got my Johnny Walker Black on the rocks here, but it is melting quick, that's for sure.
That's a healthy pour there, cowboy.
That is impressive.
Well, thank you. It is it's a very small glass. You guys, it's very hard.
Camera ads.
Across. At least that's what I'm telling myself. So
Ours are the same size, and this is mine.
oh boy.
Drink your sorrows.
Real rosy by the end of this one.
Oh, God.
That's the swim today.
Justin, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, I'm back to water. It's my birthday this past week, and I do want to share. I got a nice bottle of tequila here for my birthday. Sorry, the lighting's pretty rough. But maybe I'll break this out this weekend.
I like it.
Yeah.
We're not enough occasion for you.
Luke, real quick. Since I introduced new millennial words, I got a new Bay Area word for you.
Tell me.
It's hyphy.
Hyphy? I'm going to say it every day. What does it mean?
Dude, that's like
It means like I know. It's an old word. It's an old word. It means like we're getting like excited. We're getting lit.
Hypey.
Instead of you saying
hype, like a combination of like hype.
Yeah, like yep, exactly. Yeah,
Katie, you're from the Bay Area, so there we go. That's a word.
There we go. Yeah.
E40, obviously E40 is watching and shaking his head right now.
Oh yeah, very E40, very E40.
I'm gonna work it.
I'm gonna go spelling bee on you. Use it in a sentence.
Use it in a sentence.
We're
hyphy right now. There we go. That's basically how you use it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
This party straight hyphy.
This party is straight hyphy.
Next topic.
On that note, Mr. Hella Cool, what's in your?
They make fun of me because I like the word hella. It's cool.
No, we make fun of you because you never said hella, and then suddenly within the last 8 months you started saying.
And I cut it out.
That's it.
The podcast started and it was hella.
I cut it out.
What made you like? What kicked in the hella?
I guess a scotch or two. I don't know.
Is it like something you said as a child that just like has like?
No, it's a Bay Area thing. So hella is like really good, right, Justin?
Yeah.
Hella is like, it's hella cool. It's like super cool, and it's a Bay Area thing. I like it. So as I lived in different parts of the world, I pick up different languages and different spots. Except when I lived in Tampa, I didn't pick up anything in Tampa. And you lived in Tampa, and I don't know any words from Tampa. So what's a word from Tampa? Did you live there for like a year?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh no, I lived in Naples.
Naples. There's nothing in Naples. There's no language there. No.
No. I got nothing from Naples.
No, there's nothing there.
Luke, what are you drinking?
Oh yeah, Luke, we still haven't gotten to him. Jeez Louise.
I'm gonna drink a Revision IPA, but I'm hitting Modelo before I hit Revision. So saving that for later. You know me and my fancy glasses and bottles and stuff.
You got those at Trader Joe's on Campbell, right?
No, Bebo's pizza joints.
I saw them. Anyway, they
Shout
got
out to Bebo's.
on Campbell's. I know they did.
Great pizza.
I feel like you're drinking those out of order. Because shouldn't you drink the higher quality beer first?
That's my vote.
So my freshman year of college economics teacher gave us a lesson, I'll never forget it, about diminishing marginal utility.
Okay.
And the idea was that he used beer as an example, which is great for college kids. And he said that the amount of money that you're willing to pay for each incremental beer is less. So you're going to enjoy or pay more for or perceive value in the first product that you consume, and then every subsequent one after that, you're willing to pay less for it. There you go.
So on that note,
Well, so this was my first beer. So let's start there. I'm going down in calories too, so I'm trying to watch my figure. This is a Wowza local hazy pale ale. I don't know. It doesn't have much flavor. It's kind of like of pale ales and IPAs. It's kind of what's that low-cal beer? Oh, now I'm forgetting it. The like 100-cal one. Mick Ultra. Mick Ultra is what I was thinking of. And then now I'm on to an actual IPA, 96 calories, the Flyjack by Fiercest.
Have you guys tried the spiked kombuchas? They're like really making, I don't know if it's a comeback, but like they're like 7.5%, and that they're like 85 calories, and they're amazing. And
you're speaking Justin and Brian's language there.
Oh yeah.
It's so good. At Whole Foods, it's called like Flying Embers. My husband and I have been loving that during quarantine.
Oh, killer. Okay, I got to give that a shot. Usually kombucha is my go-to if I want the taste of a beer, but I don't feel like drinking alcohol. So I've never quite blended.
Like normal kombucha has like a little, but it's not like, this is like drinking like a beer, essentially. These spiked ones. So
nice. Yeah. Yeah. Brian and I are of the Health Aid kombucha connoisseurs. Shout out to Health Aid.
Oh, that's true.
Sponsor.
I have one of those.
Yes, those are good.
Apparently I don't throw my trash away. Okay, so it's okay. We wanted to start with a discussion around the most viral swim videos of all time.
Oh man.
We're going to come back around to you. But first, I'm going to lead off by saying that I was in a viral swim video in the flow swimming days that got, I didn't expect it to catch fire, but it was the Auburn puke session.
Oh, I remember that. That you were in. Did you do that?
Yeah, I was one of the 4.
You wouldn't even recognize them. Let's be honest.
Yep.
What year was that?
We need a photo. We just need that. A Brian
Justin,
photo.
bring it up.
I'm looking right now, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. Give me 1 second here.
Who would have thought? You see.
It was April or May of 2008. So I had just gone to Short Course Worlds, and I took a little break after Short Course Worlds, and then I got back in the long course pool right after that. And my first day back at practice, I get a text from my coach, Brett Hawk, who's got a killer podcast now. And he said, hey,
don't get Luke started on that podcast, by the way.
What?
Don't get Luke started. He's going to roll into the pop-off.
I know.
Here.
So, but I get a text from my coach that day that says, hey, Garrett from Flow Swim is coming to film our workout today. Text me the most ridiculous things like drills that you can think of that we would never do. Okay. So we're riffing on this group text thread all day. And I show up to the pool, and that video actually was released in two stages. We did one that didn't really catch fire, because why would it? That was some ridiculous warm-up drills that we would never do. And they had a whole session on that. And then he did a teaser at the end that said, by the way, this is going to be the main set. And then the next week they came back and released that puke session, which was you were supposed to chug a 16-ounce Gatorade and then sprint 100 long course all out. And we weren't allowed to warm down, and you had to get out, and then you just let it sit for like 2 or 3 minutes and then chug another Gatorade. And as soon as you were done chugging the Gatorade, you get in and sprint another 100 long course all out. And I had just taken a few days off. I had eaten it's like every swimmer, especially in the 2000s, grew up eating Subway for lunch.
Oh, I all the way.
Killed a foot-long Subway for lunch that day. And this was at like 3 o'clock, and I'm already kind of feeling like, I thought we were going to come to practice and just do drills. And then I got there, and he hits me with this, and he didn't tell us anything about it. And he just has all these Gatorades lined up. He's like, all right, just come ready to rock. Okay. That was a training group at the time where we were prepared to just do anything that came at us. We did a lot of cold turkey stuff at the beginning of practice. We did a lot of like, you lost your goggles, throw your goggles out. Okay, you got to sprint and do this race. Just little things that were unforeseen. And so I got used to the idea of being uncomfortable. And so for us, it was just sort of like, kind of a rite of passage type of group. So we were okay to do whatever. But I was the first one out because of the footlong subway. I think I only made it through like 3 Gatorades. But that was one of the harder swim workouts I've ever done for the weirdest reasons. And everywhere I went after that, and I wasn't famous as like a pro swimmer, but I mean, I would give talks and clinics and stuff like that. Everywhere I went for 5 years after that, at least, everybody's asking me about that video. Oh. And then there's all these knockoffs after it, like all these swim programs and these kids that would do it afterwards. They're like our version of the Auburn puke session. Oh, it was crazy.
I remember looking at that and being like, what? Oh my God. I don't know what I would do if my coach made me do that. Like, I would be so upset. You know, like, I swear to God, if my coach makes me do that, I'm out. I'm out.
Yeah. Oh, it's so funny. The reach of that video was
nuts.
Weird. But
How
I don't know. Do what?
How many views did it get?
Oh, I don't know. It's still on there for the version of flow swimming that they have up, but I mean,
Justin, share it.
Where we at, Justin? All right, Justin's working on it.
Are you gonna share it? Oh man, we spent a lot of time on this video.
We're going deep on this. I'll go next. A viral video that I remember was the USA Swimming Call Me Maybe video. That thing blowing up when it came out, and you had a bunch of Olympians in there. I mean, Lochte made an appearance. Everyone made an appearance in here, but nonetheless, that's mine. But let's get to the puke set video that we have queued up here, because clearly this is vital. All right.
Apologies, there's no audio, so just watch for what it is.
Ryan will commentate. Let's hear it.
So we do not need to spend much more time on this. But
there's some rough patches.
Yeah. Well.
I remember.
Hey, bro. Yeah, bro. Look at Brian on the left here.
Hey, one other story I'll tell about this is today Arena makes a swim goggle that's a hybrid of a Swede and the Tier socket rocket that has an angled lens. And we all used to wear those slanted Speedo goggles. They made a goggle called Hydroline. That some of them, they had a race version and a training version. The training version had like fogged out lenses at the bottom. But Speedo discontinued it. I must have bought like 150 pairs of them to have for the Auburn team.
Oh, wow.
On like all these bootleg websites, like 2 pairs here, 4 pairs there, just because our training group and people on our team used them. And then finally, when Caesar was sponsored by Arena, we got Arena to make their new goggle that was, the one that we know today that I still wear. But I swear by the angled lens. It helps a lot.
I have a pair of the angled lens, or the Arena ones, actually, Brian.
You do?
Yeah,
All
I
right,
do.
so I think let's move off of that one. But anyway, so Katie, we wanted to come back around to a viral video that you were in that I just learned my old roommate from when I went to grad school in Knoxville, Tyler Fenwick, is in that video.
Oh no!
What are you guys talking about?
You found it. I have my feet up on him. My heels up on him.
I was just wondering if we still have this gold suit.
I do not have that's American Apparel day before. Like, how can I find something to wear? Oh my God. I mean, it's up to the end, but yeah, this is like, you want me to tell you how this all happened?
What is this?
I have so many questions, in all honesty. Did you write your own lyrics? Did you have a ghostwriter? Was E40 involved? These are huge things. Okay,
so basically, Ed knows this is a good friend of mine, and he would have this like mini series on NBC. It was like right before 2012, and so he was like, "All right, I'm gonna make splash on him a song and I need to make a video." And I was like, I was like, "Oh my God, like, can I please be the female vocalist?" And he was like kind of pushing me off. Like, I'm not kidding you. I sent demos like of me rapping songs. Voice memos, like, look, see, I got it. And I was like Lil Kim and stuff. And then they go like during a practice and record in LA. And I was like, he's like, "You're just not like tough enough. You just don't sound." And like, you hear the voiceover, it's not like, to this day, I'm like, "Ed, I could have rocked it out. Like, I could have done it." So he's like, no, but you can still be like the video girl or whatever. And I'm like, okay. So I have to like go to practice that morning. And then John Urbanchek, which like, you guys know John. I mean, I feel like everyone
follows
me from morning practice and is like cheering me on while I'm like trying to like strut on deck. I'm like, John, like, can you just like walk away? Like, this is so embarrassing. And I had to like, they actually sped up the voiceover for like, because I had to mouth in, and I guess that's like a way to make it more like accurate when they like, when you like try to say it really fast and then they slow it up in the actual video. And it like, I felt, I mean, it was like a mini version of like being on a video set, like minuscule mini version. But yeah, that was my one moment as like a video girl, and like I got to strut on deck with my Louboutins, and that was it. That was my moment in the sun.
Red bottoms before the song, right?
Yep. And then like, yeah, Tyler, I was like, because I knew Tyler obviously pretty well, and they were like, yeah, like Katie's gonna put her. I'm like, oh my God, I felt so bad, and we had to do it in multiple takes, but.
Oh my gosh, we're so gonna get Fenwick on the pod after this. That's so hilarious.
So Ed was supposed to have that show. Lochte had his show. We'll have to deep dive some of these summer reality shows and who would have been good to have an actual swimming reality show.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think obviously like pre-Olympics is like the time, or even I almost think post-Olympics too. But yeah, it was like a mini series for like 4 or 5. And I mean, I think it hyped things up. I think had he made it in 2012, maybe it would have like taken off more. But yeah, I don't know. It was fun though. I'll tell you that.
If you had your own reality TV show about you at that point in time, what would the title of it have been?
Oh my God, that's not fair to just like lob that at me. I don't even.
I know that's a hard one, Brian.
I don't know. Can I come back to that one?
I think it should be your lyrics and.
It's gotta be something with the Hoff. I mean, you got so Hoff things, right?
That was one of the lines, like the boys got nothing on me, so that can be it. How about that?
The boys got nothing. That's great.
All right, singing. Okay.
Hey, listen.
It's good.
I sang in my sister's wedding. Okay, I can sing. You guys didn't know that. I also played guitar for my sister to walk down the aisle. How about that?
Oh, wow, that's cool. My brother actually, he's a singer. He sang at our ceremony and then our first dance.
Oh, that's so
really
cool.
meaningful. Wow.
Well, he must have nerves of steel, because I don't know that I've ever been more nervous than that.
Yeah.
So
he didn't show it. If he did, I mean, I'm sure he did.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He crushed it.
Swim talk. Okay. Katie, we want to go back to, what do you remember about your last race?
Oh my gosh, that's a hard one because, well, yeah, I do know. So my last race was the 100 freestyle at 2014 Irvine Nationals, and I had 2 blood clots in my lungs. So I just remember being really, really painful. That's all I remember. And not knowing like what was wrong with me, like why I had this like stabbing pain in this area. Like I assumed it was a strain, and took it out. Actually, like probably the best first 50 I've ever taken it out, and then just died horribly, which was not a normal thing for me in 100 freestyle. And yeah, just like being, I think, confused. Actually, I guess that wasn't my last race. It was the last race I remember. I guess I tried again after the blood clot, but it wasn't anything memorable. But that's like, to me, the last race in my mind.
Do you feel like that ended it? Like, were you trying to continue when you were already having thoughts about it? Or did you discover this thing and it was like, okay, I can't or shouldn't anymore?
It happened there. I actually, like, they diagnosed me with an intercostal strain. And I remember at the time being like, okay, like, I even felt the energy from other swimmers, like, oh, like, I've had a strain before, like, the fact that I was like, I waited all the way through the meet to, like, the 200 IM, which was the last day. I was, like, just, like, holding out hope because I was training, like, lights out before that meet. And I was like, all right, maybe I can just, and I got in, I could barely breathe through a 50. Like, it was that bad. Flew home, cue like 6 weeks of like, you have pneumonia, here's a Z-Pack, you have asthma, all these things. And then finally did the CAT scan and got diagnosed with pulmonary embolism, which I didn't even know what that was. And they're like, oh, you have 2 blood clots in the bottom of your lungs. And I was like, okay, well, that's a relief because now I don't feel like the biggest baby on the planet that I can't push through an intercostal strain, which are actually pretty painful, but I've heard. But and then I kept trying to push forward after that. And that's the thing, I don't even remember if like I think I tried to go to a meet, but like I don't even remember. And I just kept trying to think like, okay, maybe if I just can change my training, you know, because I still had a lot of scar tissue built up in my lung area. I had to have another surgery for like an enlarged gland that I think was associated with the blood clots. And it was just like, it just was tumbling off the rails. And at that point it was like, okay, you need to come back to enjoy swimming. And this is the absolute opposite. Like I was crying every day. I was miserable. I was depressed. And it was just like, I don't want to go to trials and try to like force my way through this when that's not the point of this. And that's, you know, when I ultimately decided to retire in 2015.
Why did it show up at nationals? How come you didn't feel it in tapers or beforehand? How come all of a sudden it got triggered there?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I actually now, like hindsight 2020, like now when I'm looking back, I had, so typically blood clots, which I learned a lot about after all this, occur in like your calf, and you'll feel like a pain. And my mom even had said to me after, she's like, I remember you specifically saying like, God, like my like calf's like really sore. That's so weird. Probably about like a week in advance. And then when I flew, I was training in Miami at the time. I flew from Miami to California, which is like what, like a 5-hour flight. And I remember feeling like this weird tightness in my chest, like almost like I had a cold. So I think it like at that point, I don't know for sure. I think it traveled at that point from my calf, you know, to my lungs.
And next stop will be here, right? So your heart.
Yeah. And that's the crazy, I think also, and this is, I just feel like it's such an athlete thing. Like even when I was in the hospital, they told me what happened. They were like, you know, do you understand? Like, are you comprehending? Like now I know 100,000 Americans die every day from this. So this could have, if you took this flight, it could have
the brain, what have you? Yeah.
100%. And I'm just like, don't give me blood thinners. Like, is that going to affect my endurance? Which like, but that's the mindset, right? It's like, okay, well, but now that I did like a stint with Janssen and Xarelto and learned a ton and spoke to doctors and educated myself pretty in depth with what it was and how dangerous it is. And it's crazy how quickly people die from it with that traveling, you know, from their calf, and it's just like immediate.
What kicked it off, you think, in your calf? Was it just happens because of traveling so much, or training, or genetic, or these things just happen randomly to anybody?
Yeah, the frustrating thing is that, you know, a lot of times, you know, it'll be, you know, in your family, it'll be because of birth control, it'll be because of big injury or traveling. Yeah. I hadn't been traveling a ton, enough to make a difference. I wasn't on birth control. It was not, I did a million blood tests. It wasn't that. So they still don't know. Like something they've talked about was Chris Bosch actually had similar to what I did, the basketball player.
Yeah.
He was also in Miami. So super hot area. You're dehydrated a lot and you have low resting heart rate. That's kind of like the perfect storm, they've said. But I still don't know, like, how did that just randomly happen to me? So it's definitely something I'm monitoring. Like obviously, you know, women who are pregnant are more at risk. And so that's something that's on my mind. Like I'm not having kids yet, but it'll be on my mind when, you know, that's, you know, a time in my life that I'm going to do that. So.
I'm glad you're talking about it. I think the more we talk about things that happen to us personally, that we think, oh, it just happened to me. And beyond just like sexual abuse or what have you, racial injustice, I think even, you know, healthcare stuff, the more we talk about that, this is more important. Other people go, oh, wait, that happened to me as well. I had that feeling. And you can save lives, literally save lives by just telling your story.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I think that, and that was something that, like, I didn't even know what a pulmonary embolism was. Right. And most people don't. And so, and I think also too, like so many doctors that I spoke with when I was trying to find the diagnosis would walk in and look at me and be like, wow, you look healthy.
Yeah.
And, or you're young, you're an athlete. It's like that. There's so many young athletic people. It doesn't really matter. I think with a lot of things, like, right, like super healthy people get heart attacks, they get pulmonary embolisms, they get aneurysms. Like it doesn't necessarily mean just because you're healthy, unfortunately, you know, you're still at risk.
In fact, being in really good shape can put you in danger because, you said you push yourself beyond what one should push. Brian and I both almost drowned. We both had shallow water blackouts. So half this podcast almost drowned, and we were, swimmers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what we put ourselves in and the mindset that, John, do you see this in your patients a lot? Do you see a lot of people who've just ignored the pain and injury and it just made it so much more worse? Obviously, right?
Yeah, big time. And like Katie's saying, pulmonary embolism is a big deal and something that a lot of people could miss, especially with an elite athlete. Calf pain, what swimmer doesn't have calf pain? Fins or zoomers. So come on, keep it going. Or like you said, intercostal strain, you're breathing, you're holding your breath. Very common things there. So certainly things that can happen. But back to athletes being misdiagnosed. Cardiomyopathies and things like that are very common in swimmers as well. That's where a lot of swimmers will have issues and pass out in the pool. So like Luke said, talking about these things, and obviously it takes a woman to bring light to it. But, us men, we never talk about these things, but it's huge to think about them and bring it up when you do have these issues because it can happen to anyone.
Yeah.
At any level, at any stage. Like Katie was at the Olympic athlete, Olympic medalist, and it can happen.
Yeah. It's it was definitely very surreal. But yeah, like you said, like I feel like that was the silver lining of all of it. Like I kind of went through a year where I was able to go, talk to doctors, educate doctors, understand more about it, promote it. I felt like very kind of full circle that I was able to hopefully, reach one person and have them go into the doctor right away and, hopefully save their life. So.
Do you feel like you had closure in your swimming career then? Because you said that you came back for the love of swimming, right? Which was great. And then you had this like unexpected end. But since then, do you feel like, you know what, I'm good. I'm good at swimming. I did it. I'm fine. Or you feel like, it ended kind of suddenly?
It took 5 years. I think that's why a lot of people probably were like, I kind of fell off for like a really long time and literally was like, pivot. I'm just going to go in the corporate world. I'm going to redefine who I am. And I don't want to, I did occasional things like occasional clinics or talks, but it truly took me 4 to 5 years before I was able to come to terms with it because I was so upset and resentful that I just felt like my ending got stolen from me. And, it just, I think I kind of ran away from it. I don't recommend that way, but it's just kind of the way that I had to deal with everything and understand and come to terms with it and even be able to like think about talking on a podcast or writing a book or doing anything all the things that I'm really doing now because I am, as you said, kind of at peace with it and come to terms with it.
It's such a difference to our last week's host, Maya Dorado, who literally dropped the mic on her career with a gold medal.
Literally,
and that's everybody's dream for us, some people. And we've asked tons of people. We've asked Glenn Mills. He didn't make the Olympic team in '84, and he's like, "Good, I'm done." And he was happy with that. He was happy with that. Not being there. It's really interesting to hear the difference between everybody else, and it does take 5 years maturity. It takes the support staff, it takes your husband, your mom, right, your family. So yeah, it's and talking about it with the four of us, I think.
Yeah. I think the more the more you're willing. That's why I mentioned previously, like I'm at the point where I'm an open book. Like I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be authentic because that's really the only way that helps anybody. Like if I got on here and was like, oh my God, it was awesome. And like, I loved it all. And like, that's not real. And I think sometimes that's what is portrayed of like, it's a fairy tale or be positive because you don't want to be perceived as negative. And I think that's the reason I stepped away is right after I didn't feel authentic to stand up and be able to find a kind of positive way of framing my career because there were so many positives. But right after when I was in that headspace, I was like, I don't feel authentic to get up and go in front of a group of kids or talk to a group of people about my career the way I truly deep down feel. It's going to come across in a negative, bitter way because of the way that it, finished. So.
Well, what do you think that is about human nature, right? Because it is human. We all have this mindset about incremental improvement, especially in sports, but in life in general. You're constantly trying to improve, and with that mindset also comes this expectation that my salary next year should be higher than it was the previous year, and I have to do bigger and better things and accomplish more, whatever. But like, there's no rule that says that every career needs to go, you know, in an upward
Like
trajectory like this. And this is the right curve of like happiness and enjoyment and fulfillment. It's like you had some really high highs, and just because the curve wasn't exactly the way that you might have had the plan for it, or that life might have had a plan for, like that doesn't like take anything away from any of the like crazy accomplishments. So I don't know what that is about our mindset and our expectation, but I can tell you that I'm trying to reframe sort of my thoughts around that, in that the things that I experience now in this moment with the people that I get to interact with and enjoy, like that's a chapter in life that I'm really enjoying. That doesn't necessarily mean that whatever the chapter that comes next needs to be linear.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the hardest part for me was, it was less about like, you know, I didn't expect to go to 2016 Olympics and swim 5 events and, you know, break world records or American record. I think it was more 2008 for me was so dang stressful. It was 8 days straight. I swam a million things. You know, I didn't really enjoy being on Team USA and being an Olympian. I was so stressed. There's so many expectations. Yeah. So I think my whole point of making a comeback for 2016 was like, wow, I actually have the perspective and the maturity, and I'm enjoying the process to go to Olympic Games, even if it's on a relay, even if it's on a 4x200 freestyle relay, and be like, okay, I'm here, I'm enjoying it, I'm older, wiser. And I think that was the hardest part about it. It wasn't necessarily ending on like my highest high. It was like, I'm in a place, I'm married, I'm actually in a place with, I'm working at Miami with Andy Kershaw. We had an awesome relationship. And it just was like, wow, like I'm enjoying this. This is so cool. And I'm swimming fast. And to not be able to like show that to anybody other than like my coach, my husband, and like one teammate was I think the hardest pill to swallow. But I agree with you. I think that is the natural trend of, and I'm just now out of the sport, I'm the same way. I'm like, next. Like there's always that feeling. So it does take, I think, perspective of being able to like step away from yourself and be like, whoa, like calm down, like take a look at what you've accomplished, take a look at what you've done, and just slow your roll a little bit. But it's a lot easier said than done.
It's not your fault that there was so much pressure on you at an early age. You were just so good, so young, that I think that's just a unique situation, that there's few people in world history that have lived a similar life path, right? And so I think, and you did damn well with it too. So, but I mean, how do you think that, like, would you have done anything differently, knowing about the decisions that you made? 10-year Speedo contract, like, and I think maybe even being associated close to Michael too, was part of it as well. But I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think a lot about that, because I feel like I've been able to articulate this the best I've ever been able to, because I just got out of writing a book. So I had to literally face and word vomit all of my feelings and how everything happened and stuff for the last 6 months. It's been very hard. Very hard. And I think, the whole reason why I didn't want to write it for 5 years was because I didn't really want to face certain feelings or certain memories. And there were some weeks where we were in the trenches of like certain memories or experiences where I would just be like, just not in a good mood. I'd be depressed. My husband would come down and be like, what year are you in? Like he knew, like I'm in 2009. So buckle up. But, I think, it's one of those things, like, obviously, again, hindsight's 2020. I think with 2004, it all happened so fast. And, in 1 year, I dropped 13 seconds in the 400 IM and 4 seconds in the 200 IM from 14 to 15 at a time where I was already, a year out from 2004, I was ranked, top 8 in the nation. So it wasn't like I had a ton to drop. And I don't think I think, that year, heading into that year when I first came to NBAC, I remember specifically sitting down with Paul Yetter and saying, hey, this year, if I could make the final in like the 200 and 400 I think that would set me up awesome for 2008. Like I truly didn't think that I had a shot at the Olympic team until 3 months out at Santa Clara when I went 4:39, dropped another 3 seconds. And it was like, oh my God, like this could happen. Never been on a national team before, never been out of the country before, just so green. And, I think I just wasn't ready. I think I let a lot of the pressure and, the experience get in my head. I think I really screwed up in the prelims of the trials in the 400 and that was all I was thinking about at the Olympics. Like, I can't gain 10 seconds and still make the finals. And so going into that race, I was just, I always talk about, like, I don't think I breathed. And then when I walked out and then I threw up all over the deck, and it's just probably it could just draw up, like, what's your nightmare of a debut at the Olympic Games? And throw up all over the deck in front of the people. But I think that experience though, like, really, it grew me up really fast, but I think it also taught me a lot about kind of my grit and my relentless spirit and the ability to kind of get back up from that. But I think, at the same time, I talked about this yesterday, actually, on the Summer Sport Change webinars. When you experience that type of scrutiny and that type of pressure at that age, it makes, like, your identity as, like, a person and your identity as a swimmer, like, just, interlocked to the point where it took me a really long time to detangle them. That's, like, the best way I can describe it. And then, it was really good for the next 4 years leading up. And then, like you mentioned, there were a lot of comparisons because of many reasons, right? Baltimore, many events, IM, 15 and 15, Speedo, like, there were just so many comparisons. So I never was, discouraging them. Obviously it was an honor, but at the same time, we just talked about framing. It framed my Olympic Games in a very negative light in 2008. And that, again, was another kind of speed bump to try to get back up. And I think that really affected that next quad for me. I never really kind of got over that emotion and came to terms with it, which was why 2016 was such an exciting thing for me, because I felt like I'd kind of, like, gotten over the top of the mountain, found my swagger, found my confidence, and my love for the sport again.
What were you trying to qualify in 16? The 200 free?
Yeah, I think 200 free was definitely. I just got a refill from my head. That's so nice. Thank you.
Well done, Todd. Oh, mommy.
Yeah.
Nice one. Well done.
What a great husband.
Yeah.
I think 200 free. It's so unfortunate that the 200 and the 200 free are on the same night, because
17 minutes apart. Yeah.
I was gonna have to essentially choose. Like, I was like, I pulled off that double in 08, but it was rough. So being 8 years older, I was like, I'm just gonna have to go for the 200 free, I think was what I was.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hadn't really decided at the time. My 200 IM was going to be pretty good too. But I was definitely more on the 200s. I wasn't doing the 400s at that point.
In 04, you were 15, right? Did anybody help you? Was Amanda there, Baird? Because she was 14, right? She helped you, yeah, I'm sure. In 04.
Yeah, Amanda was awesome. It's funny. I write this in my book. It's like, the Olympics it's like the Hunger Games kind of, right? Like, so
it is.
Like,
gladiators, man.
It only helped me so much, right? Like, Amanda had a full schedule. Amanda's trying to win win a gold medal. Like, so it's only like that you can only get so much support. And Amanda was amazing. Gary Hall was amazing. Jason Lezak was amazing. There's so many people that were awesome, positive forces, but I was kind of past the point of no return. Like, only I could help myself at that point mentally. But I will say that team was, I think, whenever you're younger, it's just hard. The older kids have their group. I was super naive, so I was definitely like the annoying little sister that people did or did not want to have. So I think that was it grew me up a lot for sure.
But then you turned it around and you helped other people. Felicia Lee talks about how much, you helped her. You helped her at North Baltimore. You taught her not to nap between prelims and finals. If you get too groggy. You taught her, Subway, and that's what you get, and that's what you do. And you helped Felicia, who was, she left her house at age, how old was she? And she came
was
to you.
13 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
So kudos to you.
Yeah. Did she tell you how I forgot her one morning practice? Tell you that?
No.
Well, yes. So Felicia's the best. She was at my bachelorette party. She's the best. But yeah, I was always, so we lived near each other. And so Sunday morning practice at 8 a.m., and one morning I got up, and it was just like a long week, and I was always supposed to pick her up. And I get to practice, it's 7:45, and I'm sitting there, and I get a text, and I'm like, she's like, "Where are you?" I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm in the parking lot at Meadowbrook at practice." So I speed back at a speed I do not care to admit to, pick her up, come back, and we made it right when the beep of the clock went off to dive in for, Sunday practice was more laid back. It was more just kicking, pulling, loosen up for next week. But
yeah, the beep of the clock, Brian, go there.
No, it's Sunday. You said Sunday. Why?
Yeah, Sunday practice. I spent 7 days, 4 years.
So you train 7 days a week? Wow.
7 days a week. Yep. 3 doubles, 7 days a week. And what's crazy is I was talking to Felicia about this when she was we were on the phone and she was telling me about you guys. And I'm like, what's crazy is you don't question it. When you're at that age, it's good. It's really good because you're not you're just okay, this is what we do. This is what I'm supposed to do. I did that from the age of, 14 to 19 years old. And that's just how it is. And it's great for the coaches, right? They're like, this is just how it is, and then people get to college and they're like, wait a second.
But we also swam 7 days a week, which I later learned, as you're saying, you think it's normal. And then you go to college and you're like, oh yeah, no Sunday morning practice. And they're like, you practice 7 days a week?
You're like, what?
I also didn't swim morning practices during the school year in high school.
You did it?
Mr. Brian Lundquist. No, I'm kidding.
That's nice.
We still did. Well, I wasn't swimming the 400 IM. I was a 200 freestyler in high school.
That's probably honestly now what I know about sleep and everything. It's probably better that you didn't. It's probably, we were lucky that I was homeschooled, so must be. I was homeschooled, so we had practice at 7. So there was a big group of us. Felicia was homeschooled. I was. We had a probably group of 7 or 8 of us during those years that could go at 7 a.m. So we didn't have to get up at 4 in the morning. So I felt pretty fortunate. Again, you can must be nice to me if you want, but we didn't have to get up at that crazy hour as badly. So
what is life like as an Olympian at 15 who's homeschooled and
I get what you're saying.
7 days a week? You started a professional life.
You mean am I a loser at that point?
Yeah, no, I mean, seriously, do you have friends? What's social life like?
Yeah,
do you go
I still went to prom. I went to multiple homecomings a year.
How do you get a prom date?
So I just
what dance do you go to? Are you poaching some other school's dance?
Yeah. So I had we had a really cool group at NBAC at that time. There was, obviously kids from swimming at private schools, swimming at regular schools. And so that was my social group. I had, a few girlfriends, I had a couple guy friends. And so they would just basically get me a date. Hey, do you want to take Katie to prom? And I would go to prom. So I went to their prom was actually at the Ravens Stadium, which was so cool. Yeah, so we did that, and then I have multiple people where they'd be like, "Hey, let's all go together." They would just bring me to their homecomings. So yeah, I honestly didn't feel. It's interesting the word people are you're young, you're doing all this, I had doubles on Saturday, you're doing all this stuff. How did you deal with the sacrifice? And I always find that very interesting, that word is well, I didn't look at it like sacrifice because going out and trying to break world records and swimming on Team USA was the coolest thing ever. So it's always a hard question when people ask me that. I'm like, well, if you're doing what I would say love or something that you feel it's worth it, it didn't feel like sacrifice to me. It felt like, okay, this is just what I need to do in order to accomplish what I need to accomplish.
Yeah, I can remember going to watch our high school football games on Friday night. So I'd have Friday afternoon practice and then get out of that and then book it over to meet my friends at the football game. Would do that. But then a lot of people would go out or do whatever, go party after a high school football game. And I wouldn't. I would just go home and go to bed because I practice in the morning.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking a similar feeling, right? It's like I didn't feel like it was sacrifice, like kind of in a way, but also I felt like I was doing the right thing. You know, I was like, I've got something bigger going on than whatever you guys are doing. You know, and I think.
Yeah, and I think it's like, yeah, obviously you're not like pumped in the moment. You, of course, like I would be like a sociopath if I was like, oh, good, I will get to socialize with my friends. But I think at the same, like you said, at the same time, you're like, that there's almost like this push and pull, and the tug to go home and do the right thing is always, you know, I think the times when that tug isn't as strong, you need to kind of think about like, all right, what's going on? Like, where's my passion going? What's driving that?
Right. Okay. I want to know, Katie, what is an epic set that you remember from maybe the Paul Yetter days at North Baltimore?
Yeah, so we did this. It's actually right after 2004. It's like a story I always tell. And we did a lot of bad ones. But it was called the Hell Set. That I found out later it was called that. And it was literally like we got home from Athens, and he was like, "All right, we clearly need to like do something to like make you like." I was fearful of the 400 IM because I just couldn't get the strategy down, and so he didn't tell me. He was like, "So also, I'm not going to tell you when you're going to do it. You're just going to have to deal with it." Similar to what you tell, right? You like come in, you got to deal with it. So yeah. I'm like the most like anyone who knows me. I'm not like the laid back, like chill. Like I'm like high strung, OCD. Like so every day I would come in like, is it today? Like stressed out of my mind. And I always, at that point, I was putting in extra yards. So every Friday morning, I even did 10K by myself, like every week. And so, of course, the Friday morning I come in, he's like, today's the day. And it's like, I can't remember. It's like 8,000 yards. It ended up being 10K. It was like 2,000 warm up, 8,000 yards. And it was like building. So it was like 200s, 400s, 600s, 800 of like mixed between freestyle and IM, and ended with an 800 IM for time. And I did this by myself. And then I finished, he's like warm down 100, and he's like, get up on the block. And I was like, what? Like, what else? And he was like, he's like, we're going to do just like an extra 200 IM for time on the top of it. And you need to go within 5 seconds of your best time. And at the time, I think my time was like 155 or 156. It was what, 6? Yeah, I was 15 at the time, 16, 15.
Yeah, that's so good.
And I did 201. I still remember this day. I dove 201 after all that. And that was like, I remember I went home that day. Thank God I was homeschooled and like slept for like 6 hours. I was done. But it was that turning point for me where he's just like, look what you just did. Like a 400 IM is not, I tell that story a lot as like a process oriented story, right? Like if you can stand behind that and you can put everything into that. How can you stand behind the blocks and be like terrified of 400 meters when you did, X? So
when you finished that set, were you like, I'm gonna splash on them?
No.
I just knew in the future I was going to be part of that video. Totally. No, I like collapsed into the gutter and died.
Now, I think that's a good lesson for us because I'm going to bring back some swim nerdism right now. So Mel had a really good
nerd. Everyone, he is
I just pay attention. I pay attention. I remember. Okay. No, Mel had a really good interview with Tom Jigger this week, and and Tom talks about a set he did. He said he did every Wednesday 10 50s and 5 minutes. All out, 100%, and truly 100%. Like only it's 100%.
Yep.
And he put everything himself into it. He started off like a 22.8, and he died to like a 26. Eventually, when he was going 22.8 and died to 23.5, he's like, all right, I'm good. So he used to walk on deck at nationals. I'm like, 22.8 makes finals. I don't need to warm up. I can do this right now. And he just would not warm up. He would just swim. And then Pop Off today on Brett Hawk's wonderful podcast, the Czar, said, me and Turetsky worked on negative splitting my 100. So I would do sets where I would purposely try and come back 5 seconds faster negative split. 5 seconds. That's really hard. And he says, once I nailed that, once I started doing 30 and then 25, then 29, 24, I knew I could bring on my 100 in under 24 or in 24. And just knowing you did that, you got up on blocks. And that's why Tom and Alex was just like, yeah, let's do this. Let's go. We're ready.
Was there any set like that for you, Katie, that was the dial in kind of workout?
I mean, I feel like, so for me, I was definitely never the athlete that was like, oh, I just popped this. You know, there's very few races where I wasn't pretty sure that based off the paces I had been training that I was going to do it. Like I actually wish that I was more like the type that was just like, just pop it, just do it, you know? So I was meticulous. I would say there's one actually set that in particular that was really cool. Before I just saw you guys put the 9,000-10,000. We did a 900 for time, and it was supposed to be like fartlek style, so like, you know, easy fast. And I think I went like I basically paced the old 1,000 American record by doing that. So I would like go like, you know, 29:30 for 50 yards, and then I would hit like 26, and I would keep doing that for 900. And I just felt so in the zone. And that's when I was like, okay, like I didn't think I'd go 9:10, but I was like, okay, I can break that record. And similarly, there's this set we did with John Urbanchek one time. He came to a Saturday double. And I actually didn't remember this until a teammate told me about it recently for my book. And apparently it was like, I'm trying to remember, it was like 5 100s, just like moderate. The interval was like 110, then 500 free, and then 4 100s IM, and then 400 IM. And then you did that 3 rounds. And you were supposed to like, by the last round, it was like all out for the 500 free and all out for the 400 IM. And as I'm saying this, I like want to like throw up a little bit.
I can't count that high.
But apparently, like, again, I didn't remember this. I like went like 437 for the 500 free, and then like, you know, 410 for the 400 IM, and just within the zone. You know, I was probably at this point, this was probably like 2006, 2007. And so those sets, I mean, I always tell, I mentor some younger girls, and I always tell them, you need to have your Hall of Fame sets. Like you need to have your sets where you can like be behind the blocks and be like, these 3, like I was a stud at these 3. And like, you should be thinking that behind the blocks, because that's you can sit there and be like, I've got this, you can do it. Like, you have to be able to prove to yourself that you can do it. And the sets is like, that's the meat and potatoes of what you have to prove it.
But not just behind the blocks, Katie. So these 2 amazing podcasters did an Instagram live today. They were terrible, but they did Instagram live today. John Mullen and Luke somebody. They looked at your 2008 Olympic trials final in 200 IM. And for you to know comfortably and have the confidence, you were like 3rd at the 100, you were 4th at the 175, and just to know you had that gear in you had that training, just to like, no, I'm gonna do my race. Natalie's a body length and a half ahead. Don't worry, I'm good. I mean, what was that mindset like when you're racing on 200 IM and you're way behind and you just knew you had it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no.
You're 4th at the 175.
I know. I actually watched that race recently, and I was like, do I win this? Like, I don't know I win it, but I was like not confident. I think, yeah, I mean, I think and that was always the trouble, I think, again, like it's a good thing when it's working well, but it also, I think sometimes there's that blind confidence, right? Like, so in 2009, from 9 to 12, when I wasn't training really well, I kind of lost that like blind swagger, like,
yeah.
It was just a feeling from 2005 to 8. It was just this, it wasn't even a conscious thought. It was just like this calmness of like, okay, like I can do this. I've got it. And it wasn't a thought. It just, because I did the training, it just kicked into gear. And I think that's the same as like, I almost compare it to like, you do drills, right? You do drills for freestyle and any stroke. And you're not when you are in a race, you're not thinking about the drills, but the drills have just kicked into place for you to give you the best technique ever. And I think it's very similar with the sets. It's like, if you've done those sets, you have this just general overall confidence to you of, okay, like I've done this, like I'm good. And again, like, it's not something I can tell you, like, you know, at 10 meters out, I was like, Katie, you've got this, you can win the race. Like, no, I just was like, wow, I'm in an extreme amount of pain, but like been here before. So just gotta like put my head down and give every ounce of energy I have.
Hey, Carolyn.
The other way for me too.
Being honest with yourself, though.
Well, I agree with that thinking. I can remember going on the pool deck at some of the best meets. I mean, one that stands out is 2007 NCAAs, like walking on the pool deck and just being like, yeah, I'm going to have a great meet. I already know. You just feel it, but you're drawing upon those training experiences and stacking up all the, I don't know, some people say it like you're putting in the deposits every day so that at one point you withdraw. And but it's amazing what those types of things will do for confidence. We had a good conversation with Coach Kristen Sheftunis that where she was talking about, this theory, especially when it comes to female athletes, about looking at holding on to the negative of things, of the day that you didn't have a great workout, or the day that, instead of, maybe whatever, something negative, instead of focusing on those 3 workouts, like you mentioned, or, all the positives that you should be drawing upon and using those to leverage as part of what's, on your mind as you lead into a workout. So, or into a big meet. So, it's interesting to think about how someone, with your experience has gone through that. I'm curious, like what were you like in the ready room?
So I was one of the people that obviously, at a bigger meet, you've got to be in the ready room 15, 20 minutes. If I had my way, it would be, let me go find the funniest person on my team or the funniest person I know and just spend time with that person and just make me laugh. Like, I don't want to think, I don't want to have headphones in. Like, Michael's like known for having his headphones in and being so serious. That didn't work for me. Like, if I was thinking about it, my coach Paul used to have this thing where he'd like have like 200 IM intense size, and I used to always call him out on it, like, stop at the intense size. Like, he actually did it, he almost did it right before that race you're talking about in 2008. And he was like, no intense size. I was like,
I
okay.
had that.
Because it freaks me out. Like, I had to be, smiling and laughing and happy and, not focused. Katie was way faster than me being in the zone, and like it didn't work. So I would try to, I always had friends in the ready room, so I would always be chatting up whoever I was sitting next to, or Schmitty was like peeing on her shoes, like, the right before we walked up. Like, there's always something happening that I could like think about. Schmitty, I could think about before, and it wasn't the race. Like, that was the worst thing I could do.
You always seemed like somebody was like, had your shakeout routine and like you're touching the goggles and like adjusting a lot of things. That's what it seemed like.
That's funny that you say that, because you asked me the ready room. You didn't ask me. So
I know. Yeah, that's true.
Once I paraded out, I actually hated having to like wave and smile to the crowd. And not because like I didn't appreciate like their cheers. It's just like at that point, like I have what you have, like probably anywhere between 2 and 5 minutes, depending on announcements. Like I wanted to be the first person on the blocks. Like, I hated having to like have the bib, and like I just wanted to be behind the blocks, goggles on. Yes, I was very fidgety. I was very like OCD with my goggles and like pressing in and all of that. But like I wanted to be very serious at that point. And I you're right. I did have a very like, I don't say OCD, but like specific, here's where I want to stand. Here's when I'd always be like, by the time they announce lane 6, I should be behind the blocks. I should be ready to go. Stuff is away.
Wow.
I'm in right now.
I want to segue to another quick topic, but before I do want the listeners to realize what Katie just said. A lot of the elite athletes make conscious efforts to control their cortisol levels before they race, and they make efforts to calm down and chill. I think the prime example for me is Usain Bolt. I think Usain actually tries to chill and laugh and have a good time and smile. But as soon as they say, runners, take your marks, you just see Usain go woof.
Yeah,
he becomes Usain Bolt, who is the fastest man ever. And I think he and his coach John Glenn Mills make a conscious effort to do that. Yeah, so it's good for us to train and be ready in those situations and be aware of how that affects you, not how it affects a swimmer, how it affects Katie, how it affects Brian, how it affects John. So
yeah, it's very individual. Like I always tell people, like there are people that need to focus on that level, and that's you. But like you just have to kind of like know what works best for you, trial and error, and go from there.
We normally, so this is a social kick. So we'll be on deck and, hey, Katie, how's your day going? What's going on? And we jump in the workout and we talk about our days. And we normally talk about what happened today or this week. And this week was a pretty eventful week for all of us on this podcast. You did a Swimmers for Change yesterday about mental health. Brian, John, and I, we did a Black Lives Matter swim out in the bay, and it was great. Justin had a birthday. Brian, you climbed Mount Tam. Let's talk about this week. How was this week for you? It's a pretty cool week, Katie. What went on?
Yeah, yesterday was obviously the Swimmers for Change movement has been going on for the last 2 weeks, and tomorrow's the last one. Yep. And money has been going to different charities. So yesterday our charity was 100 Black Men. And I was with Ashley Twitchell and Giles Smith, and it was very profound. I think I was a little nervous, to be honest, going into it, just because it is such a huge subject, and a subject that I self-admitted, I was like, I felt like in swimming and like just being like, so I felt like I was in a bubble for a lot of my career. And, I basically was like, I'm so passionate about this movement of helping and learning and educating and listening, because that's what needs to happen for change. And, hearing Giles really step up and share some of his experiences as, a Black kid, as a Black man in our society and in swimming was, profound. He shared something that, happened to him as a younger kid that my mouth dropped. Mm-hmm. And so being able to be a part of that and just spread perspective, spread change. And then we talked about kind of the mental side of just swimming, our experiences with swimming, and again, going vulnerable and just making it a conversation about what elite athletes go through in general. And that was very special to me because, again, like I think, all three of us had very different perspectives of what's happened in our careers. But again, like I don't think that happens enough. Like I don't think honest conversations happen in any way, especially mental health and racism and all of those things together. So I think the more that I think it needs, hopefully this is the start of this happening on a regular basis, because the youth coming up needs to hear that and they need to see that.
No, Katie, you remind me of Maya said last week. Maya says, I'm from Santa Rosa, California. I fought all this fine with racism in America, and I didn't, especially in California. And until I heard all of this stuff, it just blew my mind. And it's all about being proximate and just being, more and more conscious of what's going on and compassionate. Yeah. And so what you're doing is fantastic. And I encourage anybody to sign up to Swimmers for Change and buy their T-shirt and log on and see what's going on next. It's a really good series that Leah and Jacob did. So heads up, that's fantastic. Brian, John, anything on what we did last weekend or Swimmers for Change?
Well, I guess maybe on a personal note that I'll add, one of the things that's been difficult for me, and I think, Katie, you said it well, that it's important to be talking about these things, to be vulnerable. Yeah. I'll just be honest, like, I'm afraid of saying the wrong thing. And, that's hard. And I'm getting over that. But I'm in that process of, look, I'll just say it. Like, I used to say all lives matter. I was one of those people. And then it wasn't until, recently that I started to understand why that's not the right perspective to have. So that's just where I am. Right. And I think my connection's kind of poor.
You're good, man.
But that's just where, I'm coming from. And I think I'm getting into the point of, okay, these things are all really healthy to talk about. And of course, in my private life and, John and his wife, Carlene, and I had a great chat, over the weekend about just current events and things. And so I guess I would just say that, I think there's a lot of people that are probably at a similar place where it's not something that we've talked about before, especially white people from the swimming community.
Yeah.
And that, that's an adjustment, but I think that it's great that the conversation is out there and it's being talked about on a lot of different fronts. We've had some really great conversations before a lot of the really current things started to come about with the Black Lives Matter movement. We were talking a lot about, women's equality with some of the great women guests that we've had on the show. And I think, that's something that's really important to be talking about in a public forum, because it's things that everybody is experiencing and talking about, in their private lives. But it's important to elevate these discussions so that we can have them and influence real change.
Yeah.
At that swim we went to on Friday with Kat Breed organized it in the Bay. One thing she says I love is that it's time to commit to non-complacency. It's time for us to not just listen, but actually make some change here. Two stories. One, I just saw Carol Blondell just sign on and said hi. He's from Trinidad. The guy is a wicked 100 freestyler. The man is so fast. He went to University of Louisville. He's swam for the MNCs. And now he's trying to swim his career afterwards. And he's by himself, a brilliant, fast swimmer who's by himself. He's a black swimmer from Trinidad, and he's having a hard time. He's having a hard time in his environment where he's at, and he's stuck because of the color of his skin, to be quite frank. And we just need to put ourselves in the eyes of those who are not white, and just think where they're going and how we can help out as role models and use our privilege to help them. I was just speaking to swimmers back in the early 2000s. There was this brilliant freestyler for Jamaica, Janelle Atkinson. Janelle is 4th at the Olympics. You know Janelle, yeah? Katie, you probably raced against her. And then Leah Martindale, 5th at the Olympics in 96. I just heard a story from Leah that they used to be on deck on a relay team, and the officials used to mix them up and go up to Leah and say, that was a great 400. Leah can't swim. Leah's 6'2". Janelle, how tall is Janelle? 5 foot something?
Yeah, she's...
Wow.
So my point is, just be aware and put yourselves in other people's shoes and try and stand up or just help or reach out and just converse and talk. I think that's where we need to be right now, and just use the power that we have to be quite honest with this and help.
Yeah.
Well, let me just say that the first time my grandmother saw me swim at a meet beforehand, she couldn't tell anybody apart. She goes, "What color helmet do you wear?"
Helmet, yes.
Helmet, hat. That's how you know. You're like, oh God. It's a house.
All right, Katie, I got some rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
What's the hardest race in swimming?
400 IM.
Huh.
What was the greatest age group swim meet snack?
Just like plain pasta.
Plain pasta at a meet?
Yeah, it was the best.
What was your all-time favorite pool to swim in?
Melbourne World Championships in the Rod Laver Arena. That was a tennis stadium, and they just dropped a pool in it.
Oh wow! Okay,
that's awesome. Okay, yeah.
What was the engagement ring intentionally left out of your proposal so that you could throw the pitch?
Left out of it?
Yeah, you didn't put it on the video.
Yeah, it was on.
It's on?
I saw your hand. It didn't have anything on it. And like, how did you throw with your left hand and the ring didn't go flying?
You know why? Because it was like 3 sizes too small. I was like, thanks, babe. Like, from that skinny, but
did I just get in trouble with Todd? Oh no.
So I think, yeah, it was in the box, and then after, like, I'm not kidding. So right after I went to the Grand Prix in Mesa, and I was like just wearing that thing, and then people would be like, "Can I see it?" And I'd be like, "Yup." Like rip it off. But we got it reset. Yeah, it's on. Yeah, we got it. But yeah, it's he did all of that by himself. Like, I knew nothing, so he did all of that by himself. So
you didn't borrow a ring or nothing and get it sized? Come on.
No.
Right. Ring size is tricky. I can guarantee that. I remember sneaking around trying to get this custom made.
Like, it was all adrenaline that it even went on after that.
Olympic gold or world record?
I mean, that's a hard question for me. I mean, I think Olympic gold, but I have world records, so Olympic gold.
Yeah, you can claim it. If you didn't go pro, where would you have gone to college? Swimming.
Wow. I was obsessed. I'm not saying this because you went to Auburn, but I was obsessed with Auburn when I was 13 and 14 years old. Like, I was obsessed with Maggie Bowen. I had a cap signed by her from 2002. So I don't know if that was
the Gatorade set is what.
Totally, that's right. Yeah. Like, I was obsessed with Auburn. I'm trying to think back to like division who was big when I would have gone, like 2008. I mean, I feel like Auburn was pretty big. I feel like Cal was pretty big. So just I think a team that would have had like a great group. I don't know.
No, well, it's first answer. We'll take Auburn.
Stick with Auburn.
Rapid fire.
Who was your fiercest rival?
Fiercest. Kirsty Coventry was always like on it, and like I always got super nervous because I always knew she'd be there. Yeah, I would say her for like international, and then I mean for freestyle, Kate Ziegler was always. Okay. If I was flipping like 4 seconds ahead of her by the last 50, like it was over. I told her that actually. I was like, I knew I needed like this much space.
Oh my gosh! Did you pee in the pool?
Yeah.
Who's the greatest female IMer of all time?
Tracy Calkins.
Good one. Did Speedo get FINA to allow polyurethane and give them an advantage?
No, I don't know. I don't think
you were on the inside.
10-year deal.
In what?
Read the book.
I don't know. I still tested, but I know nothing else.
They influenced the rules. At least that's what I thought. All right. So, yeah, they didn't allow those panels before the rule change to allow polyurethane. All right.
You know more about it than me. I was very like, just like, again, this.
You were.
I'm just shooting music videos.
That's what I'm channeling the workouts.
Splash.
Gold suits. That's me.
I'm flashing on
them. Katie, what's something we're going to find out about you in your memoir that most people don't know about you?
I think probably. I think the afterlife, like when swimming's done, like I actually had the opportunity to like. The book does not end when my swimming career ends. The book goes deep into what happens after.
That's awesome. Where can people follow you?
So,
and what's the name of your book?
The name of my book is called Blueprint. Nice. So, quick story of why everyone in their life has to have some type of plan, which is a blueprint. And in order to be successful, you have to pivot and revise and change it because life doesn't just always happen according to plan.
Well, we're excited to check it out. And people can follow you where?
KT Hoff 7 is my Instagram. You guys already got it. And then my website is, yep, you guys already got it.
Wait, why is it Katie Hoff 7 and Katie Hoff 09? What's going on there?
That's just, I should use my Twitter more, but it's just like when I started my Twitter. 2009, but I'm very active on my Instagram, on my website. And I actually just started from, my website has my dryland program, but my husband and I actually just started a dryland for teens program called synergydryland.com. So if you want to check that out too, that's what I've been up to.
Do you have time for a question or two, Brian? What do you think?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, Justin, you want to jump from the audience? I think we got some questions this round.
Yep. So we have one question from one of our Facebook group members here. Did you ever experience an injury? I know you alluded to the pulmonary embolism, and if so, how did you overcome it?
Well, let's not do the pulmonary embolism. So I actually had like right before 2005. Not many people know this. Right before 2005 World Championships, I had this really random, like super intense strain on the top of my foot. That they were actually going to put me in a boot, and my mom was like, nope, we're going to go like all natural and like ice it and like all this stuff. And, I just couldn't kick for like almost 2 weeks. And so I had to pull, and, I definitely overcame it. I had a really great Worlds and, won, and, but it was just keeping the faith and controlling what I can control. I feel like that's like kind of the only way I can relate to on some level to people who are still swimming during this COVID time is like, you literally can't control anything else with what you can control. So I was pulling, I was doing abs, I was doing pull-ups, everything possible. And then obviously doing icing and arnica and all these things around the clock.
Cool. Great. Perfect lead in. This is big. We have a question from Karen. She says, thank you for sharing your experience, Katie. What do you think the future of the sport looks like for the next generation of swimmers? Pools are closed around the world, and my thoughts are not in the short term, but long term of the sport.
Well, that's a great question, Kareem. I think the future. I think the future is really exciting for swimmers getting to swim longer and longer past college. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to make like records and times get that much faster because I think there's so many people who hit their stride later, particularly guys, but I think there's been a lot of girls that have come onto women that have come onto the scene that are crushing it, in their late 20s, early 30s. And because swimming has a lot, the ISL and has these, lot more exposure, I think that leads to sponsors and money, which leads to being able to actually make swimming your job for a lot more people and not just like 0.0001%.
You heard it here first. Katie Hoff comeback ISL 2021.
Do not say that.
I am. Boy.
Come on, Katie, do it.
She wants a social kick a lot. That's all. We got a social kick.
Yeah, that's fine. That's actually the one thing not a lot, but I will do that. I'll get in the pool and I'll be like, yeah, I'll kick a 2,000, whatever. It's fun,
Done.
Well, you can come back and social kick with us anytime. Thanks for hanging out, Katie.
Yes, thanks so much for having me. This has been great.
Awesome to have you. Cheers. All right.
Thank you, Katie.
Everybody.